So, what's going on with Dean Guitars? They've been making tabloid-style headlines over the last several years.
The first thing I would say to everyone, believe half of what you read.
I don't see anything going wrong here. We're having a blast in spite of all the haters.
There's really nothing more that we can do or say. It's in the hands of the lawyers.
Gibson can go fight with somebody else. We've redesigned our line and it's flourishing.
Many are asking if Dean will even survive. What's the real story? We explore the Dean story, past, present, and future. We spoke directly with the Dean CEO and other executives to get some unexpected insights on these topics. Here's the thing, this is not the brand's first near-death experience. In fact, there have been several. So to better understand Dean today, let's start with some untold stories from Dean's past. The brand was founded in Chicago in 1976 by Dean Zelinsky. Those were the dark times for the guitar industry. The market leaders Gibson and Fender were both owned by conglomerates, which led to a period of low-quality instruments and an utter lack of innovation. Zelinsky's designs were inspired by some existing Gibson models, but his bigger, bolder headstocks and willingness to embrace more edgy features and colors helped Dean Guitars stand out. Players and artists gradually discovered Dean Guitars. Some were attracted to its fresh appearance, many seeking a quality USA guitar during a period when that was hard to find. Dean seemed positioned for gradual growth, but then came MTV. No one could predict the impact that MTV would have on music. The prominence of guitars, and especially Dean Guitars, put the brand on an epic growth trajectory. MTV put guitar players front and center, minting countless new guitar heroes, and many played Dean. From the Cars, to Kansas, to Hart, to the Doobie Brothers, it seemed like Dean was everywhere. Two of the highest profile appearances of the day for Dean Guitar were Sammy Hagar's I Can't Drive 55 and ZZ Top's She's Got Legs. The guitars were not just there, they were co-stars in these videos. Dean seemed poised to take over the reins as one of the top guitar brands in the world. Zelinsky was adding models, ramping up production, spending lots on marketing, and trying to keep up with demand. But the music suddenly stopped. The rapid growth was impossible to manage smoothly, and the market was changing. Music was changing, MTV was changing, and both Fender and Gibson were regaining their footing. Suddenly, Dean was in trouble and encountered its first near-death experience. Production stopped and the Dean Guitar Company was for sale. Had a buyer not surfaced, this could have easily been the end of Dean. In 1990, the brand was sold to Tropical Music. The Miami-based company distributed guitar products in the USA and Latin America. They also had experience in the relatively new trend of sourcing guitars from Japan and Korea. Dean had a new life and a new owner. I was lucky enough to be part of the management team for this next chapter of Dean Guitars. Like the prior chapter, we found some early success by adding new models, product categories, and price points. We also got really lucky that a guy named Daryl Abbott was playing Dean Guitars. Daryl had won a Dean ML in a guitar competition and was starting to enjoy success. Of course, Daryl Abbott is better known as Dimebag Daryl, and his fame and the close association between him and his Dean ML was the next major catalyst of success for Dean Guitars. Sales were surging around the world. Everything was working again for Dean. But in 1994, Dimebag left Dean for a deal with Washburn, leading to the next major challenge for the brand. The loss of Dime, along with the growing popularity of grunge music, took a toll on Dean. The brand was entering the grunge 90s with an 80s glam style, and that was not going to work. This is when Elliot Rubinson bought the brand to be part of his company, Armadillo Enterprises. Elliot was a sharp businessman and knew the guitar market well as the owner of a large chain of music stores. He was convinced that the best days were ahead for Dean Guitars, and he set out to rebuild it. I stayed on with Dean Guitars for the early years of Elliot's era of Dean, and I personally witnessed his tremendous commitment to the brand. He brought back US production, upgraded global supply chain, invested in more marketing, signed many top artists, and set his sights on getting Dime back into the Dean fold. Dime signed with Dean Guitars for his return in November of 2004, with plans to launch his all-new model a few months later. Tragically, Dime was killed the following month, which was a great loss to all who knew him, those who loved his music, the guitar industry, and Dean Guitars. Elliot worked with Dimebag's family to bring Dime's instruments to the market, and that collaboration was a mutually beneficial one for well over a decade. But in 2017, Elliot Rubinson died. As the sole driving force behind the most recent chapter of Dean Guitars, his passing put this brand into yet another period of uncertainty. The third in its 40-year history, and this one was going to be a doozy. This led to a chain of events that have been the guitar industry's equivalent to tabloid news over the last 5 years. The first revolved around a trademark battle with Gibson, the next a falling out with Dimebag Darrell's estate, and the other being an ugly battle within the ownership group that led to name-calling, lawsuits, and claims of pending financial Armageddon. The information on those present problems and the perceived existential risk to the Dean brand have been widely discussed. But most of that has been based on hearsay and assumptions. So we decided to go to the Dean headquarters to see what was going on for ourselves and to ask the Dean team directly. We sat down and spoke with the company's brand manager, president, vice president, and CEO. So before digging into the tabloid topics, we asked them about the current position of the brand and its products.
We feel that Dean is one of the most iconic brands in the genre of heavy metal music, and our goal is to kind of get us back to the level that we've enjoyed for a number of years, which is being the go-to brand for heavy metal guitarists.
The Dean Guitars brand today has come a long way. You might remember it from back in the day of, ZZ Top fuzzy guitars and, the Cars and Sammy Hagar with the Baby ML and stuff like that, and they're really flamboyant kind of out there, new generation kind of guitars. Where we're at today is we've stepped beyond that. We do guitars that are for everybody. If you're a bedroom shredder, if you're a YouTube influencer, multi-scale guitars, Kaler guitars, exotic woods, our USA shop can pretty much do anything that we put our mind to.
We're rebellious. We're supposed to be the rebellious brand. We're just being ourselves and trying to think about the players first.
In May of 2019, Gibson Guitars filed a lawsuit against Dean, alleging trademark violations and counterfeiting. The case was related to the Gibson Explorer and Flying V, specifically how similar they are to the Dean Z and V. Undeniably, other than the headstock, these do look the same. However, that had been the case for over 40 years at that point. These models had been part of Dean's line since the beginning, and Gibson had never indicated that they felt that they owned these shapes. Dean fought the claim, and in May of 2022, after a jury trial, Gibson won the case, stunning many industry observers and Dean. While that seemed to be the ultimate word, the battle has continued. Gibson claimed that Dean was not abiding by the jury's findings, and Dean pushed for an appeal. Dean did win a small victory, having their appeal considered, as the company president explains.
Well, we respect the decision of the trial jury and the judge. However, we feel like there was some other case law that wasn't cited that we weren't allowed to use, and that gave us grounds to do an appeal. And so we're actually waiting any day now to see what the appeal will yield in terms of a decision. And whatever comes out of that, we will respect it and move forward.
According to the Dean team, they've moved on and do not feel that winning the rights to return these guitars to production is critical. They replaced them with more aggressive and sharper versions called the Zero and Vengeance. Their CEO's perspective is telling.
Gibson can go fight with somebody else. We've redesigned our line and it's flourishing.
The next bad news for Dean Guitars came in August of 2021 in the form of yet another legal challenge. This one came from the estate of Dimebag Darrell. This legal challenge is still ongoing and is in the hands of the legal system. The debate is related to claims of a failure to pay royalties and the rights to various trademarks. I asked Pam Rubinson, the company CEO, about this.
I was not here when the dispute started, so I can't really speak to what happened in the moment. I know that when I first came in here, I was very saddened to see that this relationship had deteriorated. I personally reached out to Rita and asked her if we could work together, since both of our deceased spouses wanted this contract. Could we go back to the original contract and could we make it work? I can't speak to a lot of the details because there's ongoing litigation, but I think that in the long run, Rita felt that she had better options other places, and I wish her the best.
The president added a little bit more on the topic of this legal battle.
They have a very strong opinion on their side, and we have a very strong opinion on our side. We're very comfortable with our lawyers handling this. When you have a situation like this, that's, I believe, exactly what the courts are designed for. You have two parties that can't agree on something, and so, we're going to put our faith in our lawyers. They're doing the same, and we'll get a resolution in that regards. But I can assure you that none of the folks on the Dean side were interested in having this turn into a litigation.
After the big headlines from these conflicts with Gibson and Dimes estate, you would think things might settle down. But another major issue was on the horizon. A dispute between members of the ownership group of the parent company of Dean Guitars led to mudslinging, additional legal matters, and most recently claims that the company was not financially stable, specifically asserting that the company would not survive. So I asked the CEO to comment on these reports and the future of Dean.
The first thing I would say to everyone, whether it applies to us or anyone else, is believe half of what you read. Difficulties, salaciousness, problems, that's what sells news. And that's what people publish for that reason. If you really want to know what's going on, you follow what's happening with the company. The company, I read one article that said that we owed our lenders $40 million. That's preposterous. It's not even in the realm of reality. This company, once again, we are built on a very strong foundation, and that foundation was put in place by Elliott. Our goal and our work ethic is such that we're not going anywhere. We are solid. We hope to get better. We want to compete in the marketplace at the highest levels. And we are now, and we will going forward.
Dean Guitars has been around for 48 years. This brand might have one of the most eventful histories in the guitar industry, but for sure it has over the last 5 years. The brand that started with a boutique guitar maker's mentality has continued to be the industry rebel. In the months and years ahead, we will see if the new Dean team is able to vanquish these current challenges and navigate the brand in the way that they envision. What do you predict for the future of the Dean brand? What direction would you want to see them take? If you want to learn more about what Dean's up to, check this out. If you want to see another really cool story about the guitar industry, check this out.